Okay, so we are recording, but it is on the speaker view, so we should only be seeing me. And as I mentioned already, I'm going to be showing you some of the things that I have that can help your students prepare for Thanksgiving. So I want to start by first of all showing you the app that we have on our phone. I'm curious if you have already downloaded the app, will you put that in the chat and let me know that you've already finished it? And I am going to share and show you where this is. Okay, so on the phone, on your app, you should be able to find the app for the online itinerant. It looks like this. And when you click on it, you can see all of the goodies that are inside of the Academy. Now, if you are not yet a member of the Academy, you still get some free goodies. There are some special tools that are accessible for anybody. You don't have to be a member of the Professional Academy to access the free tools that are inside of the app. So why is this great? This is great because if you are a member of the Professional Academy, you will see, or the Friend Academy, you will be able to access the trainings on the road, and you will be able to access everything that's in here and you'll be able to do it on the road. One of the nice features that we have are the trainings are broken into, if you haven't seen this yet, the trainings are broken into micro modules, which means that when you're listening, if you're driving on the road somewhere, you can get little segments of the training that are usually 10 minutes or less. So this is really nice if you're traveling between schools or you just have a little bit of time, you don't have the opportunity or the brain capacity to sit for an hour or an hour and a half to watch a full training. You can just do the little bits at a time, and the app will just automatically forward you to the next section of the training. So that's kind of a nice little benefit. So I want to definitely encourage you, if you have not yet downloaded the app, I want to encourage you to do it. And the other thing is coming in, starting in the new year, I will be moving largely over to the app for communications in terms of I'll be reducing my text messaging and I'll be sending information through the app through notifications. So another reason just to make sure that you have that app. Anybody have the app? I saw that a couple people hadn't had it yet, but I see that Greta does have the app and Ruth has the app. Fantastic. Amy, not yet. So Amy, you definitely want to check it out. And Elaine has it. Fantastic. So have you guys used the app? Have you had the opportunity to try it out yet?
Yeah.
Anybody? Yes. All right. Wonderful. Great. Was it helpful for you?
Yes.
Fantastic. Great. That's what I love to hear. So fantastic. Good, good, good. Okay. So with that, let's take a look at some of the tools that are inside, and I'm going to be on the big computer so that you won't have to see my tiny little icons on the phone. So here we are, we're on the website. And of course, it's the onlineitinerant.com. Once you're in here, if you are already logged in, you will know because you will have this icon here that shows that you are logged in. So you can ignore on any of the home pages. You can ignore any of the top menu bar unless you see something, unless you see your icon here. When you click on this, you'll get my library, and then that will take you in to your account. And you will have now a menu bar that looks something like this. So what these are, so we've got our blog, obviously that will take you right to the blog. Your library is everything that you have. Okay, so that's everything that you have. It's all of the trainings, it's everything that you have inside of your account. My teaching toolbox goes directly to the toolbox. So this isn't any of the trainings or anything. You can go directly to the toolbox. The CEUs and credits, you might notice on your homepage, we used to have all of the credits on the homepage. And I heard from people, they said, it's too much. I can't really, there's so much on this main page of the platform that I'm a little bit lost. And since I know you don't need all the credits, like for example, Act 48 might be important to you, but the Illinois credits, ISBE, not so much. So what this looks like now is if you need credits, and for those of you who are out east, we do have New York credits. So we've got CTLE credits, and we also have Act 48 credits. So what happens is you can add this directly to your platform, and then you have easy access to those credits, but you only need to add the ones that you need. And all of them at this point are free. There's no extra charge to add this. And as long as the Act 48 people and each credit person is working with us in terms of keeping the cost reasonable for us to be able to provide it for you for free, it will be free. Some of the credit people are saying we will charge you every person, every training that you do, and then it gets really expensive because we have over 50 trainings. So at this point though, the credits are free for you with the exception of graduate credit, which is my not state. And I think it's $50 to do that. So if you are looking for graduate credit, then you can get that for a very low price, not much at all. Okay, so this is just back up here to this main menu bar up here. This is something I'm wanting to point out to people is the completed trainings tracker. As I mentioned, there's a lot of trainings in here. So if you're ever kind of lost and kind of trying to remember what did I already do and what haven't I done, then you can come in here and you should check off anything that you have done already. You should check it off to help you keep track of it. And if you're in here looking and you're like, oh, actually, I would like to see this training and I haven't done it yet, you should be able to click on it and it will take you directly to the training as well that you are wanting to see. So it's another way to kind of navigate what is inside and try to keep track of the trainings that you have viewed or trainings that maybe you want to view. Anybody seen any good trainings lately? I would love to know what you've watched or listened to and whether it was helpful for you or not. So please put in the chat any trainings that you have checked out recently, including our recent meetups. So we just did one last week, Thursday. What date are we? 2 weeks Thursday on the Perez case, what went wrong. That was a fantastic training. Then the one before that, we had an Usher syndrome training. And then before that, we had using the NASD guidelines. Those were our live monthly trainings, which are available on demand for you. But I'm curious if you have checked out any trainings lately that have been helpful for you. Go ahead and put it in the chat. I know a lot of times people say, I just don't have time for the trainings. And that's why I love to say we do have that feature to be able to listen at short little, I like to say digestible units. So, okay, well, speaking of trainings, let me show you a few that I want to highlight. And by the way, this is your dashboard, if you will. Yours should look very similar to this. The only thing that might look different to you is this icon right here that says the Friend Academy. So this is our parent program, the Friend Academy. Any parent, any family can join the Friend Academy. If they are a member of the Friend Academy, they get the teaching toolbox, the monthly on-demand trainings, and then instead of this section here called the on-demand trainings, they get their own trainings inside the Friend Academy. I'm going to be highlighting some of those to you next. Now, any family can participate, can join the Friend Academy. It's $199 or $20 a month to be a member of the Friend Academy. They also get the power hours. So they also have parent power hours where they can come together once a month. We're doing one this Thursday for parents, and we are going to talk about language development for their child, how they can support their child's language development, how they can identify what the gaps are, how they can identify whether sign is going to be something that will be beneficial to support their child if they're not already signers. If they are signers, how they can, as families, support that development. It's going to be a wonderful discussion. Now, I want you to know, as professionals in the Professional Academy, that you as a professional have the opportunity to give your family, every single family on your caseload, a free membership to the Friend Academy. And you do this, you click on this section right here, and it will open up for you and it will tell you what's inside, how to add the Friend Academy, then how to maximize it, how you can use it for your families. And just in case you have any questions, you didn't get the proper emails, then you've got the information from here. So this goes through step by step, and you also get the same thing. So then you will have this exact same dashboard as me. You'll have the Friend Academy as well. Okay. And these are some other things that are inside of here. So for the Friend Academy, that's what I want to talk about tonight. Oh, let me ask you first before I move on. Anybody, have you added your friends or have you added your parents to the Friend Academy? Go ahead and let me know in the chat if you have added your parents to the Friend Academy for those of you who are Professional Academy members. I'm glad that Jennifer is in here because I know that Jennifer has been, when you, fantastic, so all of our English speaking families. So when your family registers for the Friend Academy for free, you get a coupon code and you share that with them and they get that. They tell me who their DHH teacher is. Now, if they tell me and if they have the name right, I send you an email. I send you an email. So a lot of times families actually don't know who their teacher is, or maybe they don't really know what your last name is. And so sometimes I'll get an email that says, oh, my DHH teacher is Jennifer. So I might not have quite enough information to be able to exactly reach out to you. But if they're able to name you, then you will get an email that says, congratulations, you have a family who has joined the Friend Academy. Let them know how to maximize their time, and so that you do know that they have joined inside. So inside the Friend Academy, I'm just going to give you a minute to kind of look at this. We've got a few different sections. We've got the impact of hearing loss. All of these trainings inside of here are made exclusively, well, I shouldn't say exclusively, made especially for parents and really anybody who's kind of learning about, it's really probably good trainings for like general ed teachers or anybody like that who really just doesn't know the impact of hearing loss. So this really talks through all the different barriers that hearing loss can create. So communication and language, learning, the environment around you, incidental learning, social and emotional developments. Then and none of these are communication specific. It's really just being able to identify with parents what is the impact of hearing loss in general and how can we break it down. Then there is a training that's just sort of this global, what is the impact? And then we've got some additional trainings, the truth about summer for kids with hearing loss. So a lot of kids regress in their learning, or they feel very lonely and isolated. They don't, they lose a lot of their community. And then 'tis the season of gathering, turning stress into success for your child with hearing loss. And then we've got a few others as well. So this is the one that I want to show you today. Whoops. And this is 'tis the season of gathering. So this training is really wonderful for families to check out. I strongly encourage you to invite your families to view this training. I know a lot of schools actually have a family night. They do it through Zoom or they do it in person and then they show this training. But this really just talks about kind of the impact of being in a large group and how that can be isolating for our children, for our students, if they don't know the people, if they're not able to follow a conversation, and then some strategies and tips for families to be able to reduce any anxiety and then include their child more fully in the event. The other thing that I like to point out is this right here, turn knowledge into action. And you can, this is inside this Friend Academy here. And you can click on it and it will take you directly to, this is sort of okay, now you've learned about it. What are you going to do? How can you support your child? And this is the one that I really love right here, is called Prepare, Engage, and Reminisce. This right here is this is like kind of the this is the biggest impact that we can have with our students and that parents can have with their children, especially for a language and for just processing what's going on in their world. So you prepare a child for what's to come. You find out, you identify ways for them to engage in the experience. And then afterwards, you look back and you reminisce and you talk about all the things that happened. So I've been having these conversations with my students lately saying, what do you do for Thanksgiving? And they talk about their family that comes over. And I say, well, what do you do? I can't tell you how many of them say, well, I just get on my tablet or I just hang out on my device. I play video games. They're all out in the party and I just, and they're happy as can be about it. They don't mind this a bit, which is a little sad to me because they don't know what they're missing out on. They're missing these family memories. They're not connecting with the people in their lives that they could be connecting with. So a training like this will support a family and a student in helping to prepare, helping to identify how they can engage well, and then looking back, and if there were any misunderstandings or anything that they could have done differently, you can revisit it and then you can talk through it. You can celebrate the wins, but then you can also identify what happened, because a lot of times something will happen and the kids don't really understand what it was. So all of a sudden, somebody turned and walked away from them and stopped talking to them for the entire night. They thought they did something wrong. No, that wasn't the case. They just misheard whatever somebody said, and then the conversation didn't open up again. So it's an opportunity to kind of kind of correct and work on communication repair and all of those great skills. So that is training number 2 that I want to point out to you. And then the other thing that I want to make sure that you see, I'm pretty excited about this. This is also in the Friend Academy, but it is also in the Professional Academy. And this one, it's called Travel Tips for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Students and Individuals. So any students who are going on a trip, right? Anytime, if they're traveling anywhere, if they're going to be visiting anybody, this is taught by Tina Childress. Anybody heard of Tina Childress? If you're familiar with her, put it in the chat. Let me know. She is deaf and she's traveler. So she really knows the barriers that you can experience when you're traveling. And she is great. So I love her story. Tina was an audiologist who became deaf. So that didn't happen first. She was an audiologist first. So she knows sign and it also can speak from a personal point of view, personal perspective of what it's like to experience hearing loss and live in the world. So this training, actually, I like to point out, is great to show students. This is a great training for you to actually show the students that you are working with, for families to watch as well. So this has different things like going in the plane, talking about trains, cruise ships even, what to pack, don't leave without, and lodging in the hotels. And then some great discussion. So those are some of the trainings that I want to point out. Does anybody have any questions about any of those trainings that I just buzzed through for you so quickly? All right. Comment in the chat just that they look great. Fantastic. Okay, so now I want to point out one of the lesson plans, and we're going to get into the toolbox. So shortcut, I can go back out to my library if I want, or you'll notice right up here, we can go directly to the toolbox. So it is a shortcut. I love shortcuts. Inside the toolbox, if you haven't had a chance to scroll the toolbox lately, I'm going to go kind of slow so that you can see this. It might look a tiny bit different because I tried to make it a little more visually friendly. These are all the different categories that we've got. So I always like to point out the quick guide. This quick guide, you can click on it, and it is exactly that. It is a quick guide. It will show you all the tools that are inside. And we've got the same thing for the trainings. We've got a quick guide that will just talk you through everything that's in here. And then it does have a direct link to go to it. So if you just want to scroll, if you prefer a list, if you don't want all the pictures, if you want to see what everything is, then this is helpful. Anytime something new comes in since the beginning of the year, I have put it in yellow. So if you see it and you're like, oh, what's the yellow? That just means it has been added since the beginning of the school year. And again, you can click directly on the link and it will take you directly there. So tonight I'm going to walk into the self-advocacy section, and I am going to do it through the toolbox, not through the quick guide. But you can see our different sections that we have. So our audit proof IEP assessments, goal banks, and lesson plans. I'm going to be back there in a minute. Assessments and forms, auditory processing, auditory training, language building. I like to point out that all of these are not communication specific, with the exception of auditory training. Auditory training is obviously working on listening and spoken language. The language building, in general, most of them can be used for any communication mode with some exceptions. Like, for example, we've got a whole section of ASL resources. I did a little show and tell of those last week. And some of these, let's see if any of the others are, yeah, even the listening and language by the month is really more of a following directions and language by the month. So everything else, with the exception of the ASL resources, really can be used for any communication mode. It is just a language building opportunity. All right, then we've got a whole big section on self-advocacy, a huge section on self-identity and social emotional development, a huge section on transition. Sometimes these are the areas that we really struggle to find materials for. The online itinerant, I've got tons of them for you built inside the toolbox. I like to point out there are a number of tools inside of here that are Teachers Pay Teachers tools that I actually have purchased for you to have access inside of the toolbox. So if you are a fan of Teachers Pay Teachers, before you go in and buy anything, check out the toolbox. It's possible, A, I've got something that will teach the same thing you're looking for, or B, I actually have the same thing that you're looking to buy inside the toolbox. So many of those fantastic Teachers Pay Teachers materials have been purchased for you inside the toolbox. Then we have handouts and resources, in-servicing materials, and IEP info, goals, and accommodations. This is going to change once we finish our entire audit-proof IEP goal bank. This will look a little bit different. But for the purpose of the tour tonight, I am going to open up the self-advocacy section and just take a look at all of these different self-advocacy materials. This is why I want people to know, don't purchase any self-advocacy materials from Teachers Pay Teachers until after you've looked inside and checked out what is inside of here. So for the purpose of us preparing for the holidays and talking about that tonight, I'm going to point out this section right here. Actually, I'm going to point out a couple of them. The self-advocacy fake it till you make it is a really great activity to work on with students. This can happen anytime. This is definitely a great lesson to do anytime. I do it with all of my students. The pictures look a little young at first, but actually the scenarios are not. So these just talk about the the bluffing and the coping strategies that kids naturally learn in terms of communication. So it talks about what kids do to kind of fudge and pretend like they're following conversation when they're not. So it talks about people who talk and talk and talk and they don't stop talking. It talks about when people oh, what do we have here? Let me just skip right to them. So the people who just talk and talk and talk, or they recall all of the attention to themselves, or they laugh when everybody's laughing, even though they didn't exactly understand it, or they give up and they just go get on their iPads and they play during the Thanksgiving meal or whatever it is. So they kind of just give up and they don't even try. Um, so it goes through each one of these scenarios and it kind of talks about it and what can you do instead. So this is a great tool to do with your students to prepare them for upcoming events that they may be in these situations. And then the other one that I want to show you is this one called Holidays and Social Events. And this I love for families also to go through as well. So this gives very common um, holiday events that happen. So, and then you talk through them. Can we go? Okay, so here is an example. It says, when relatives and friends come to our house for parties, I miss out talking with them because of all the noise and the commotion. I feel left out and I don't have fun. So you kind of go through all of the things. So what's going on? Like what's happening in the situation? And then what was the problem? Like, why is this a problem? Why are you feeling left out? Well, because it's really noisy, right? It's just too much going on. So if this was you, how would you feel? And then kind of identifying where did the problem come from? Is it because of you, the listener? Is it because of the person talking? Is it because of the setting? And you identify what you can do to control this. And you talk through this for multiple different scenarios, but this is what's really neat is here are some strategies, here are some tips that you can do instead. So I love this. Be the party host, answer the door, greet your guests and take their coats. This will give you a chance to talk face to face in a quiet setting. Or try this. Think ahead about upcoming party situations and practice good listening strategies. Consider role playing with your dad or your mom. So you can just really work this out. And these are multiple scenarios, and all very practical, real scenarios that happen at home. So here's our strategy. You and your parents can text or email the people that invited you over to because this one was you were going over to somebody else's house. So you can give them a quick update about your hearing technology and listening and language, and then you can let them know about these things ahead of time. So anyway, this is a really neat activity to work on with students, and you can start now and do it all the way through Christmas. But there are some summer activities or some summer things in here. So this is a birthday party. And then we've got just a dinner, just a regular dinner at Grandpa's house. We've got a picnic outside. And we've got like this is watching a movie. I don't like watching cartoons or animated movies because it's too hard to understand the words and songs without being able to read their lips. So, um, it really is quite personal. Okay. Peeking at my time here. Put in the chat, have you guys used this tool? Anybody used this? And if so, tell me about it. Tell me about it. All right, Elaine said not yet, but I will now. Great. Okay, now some people say, okay, I really wish I had time. If I only had time to work on these things, I would, but I've got all of my IEP goals and I've got a limited amount of time and I have to choose. So I want to show you some of the common IEP goals that all of this kind of overlap with. So I am going to walk you into our audit-proof IEP assessment goal banks and lesson plans. So in case you haven't seen this yet, this is kind of a big deal. I'm really excited about this. We have got 3 goal banks. We've got self-advocacy, we've got transition, and we've got self-identity. And each one of these is a bundle. Each one of these we call a bundle because each one has an assessment. Then from the assessment, it has directly linked IEP goals that you go in and you just can copy and paste them, depending on where the student topped out with the assessment, what their needs are. Then you just modify it for your own student. You can make them easier or more difficult by adjusting the frequency or the percentage, correct? But then it also has all the exact lesson plans for you to be able to do each one of these activities. So, and then there's also, I should add number 4, because I also have the data collection sheet is included in it. So you click on which bundle. So we're going to talk about the self-advocacy bundle. And here we go. These are what we have in here. The skills checklist and lessons. For this tool, I bundled it into one so that you can actually do the assessment. And while you're doing the assessment, if you need some activities to use for the assessment, you can do that. But then the other thing that I found, at least for myself personally, I write the audit proof goal, which can be a little bit wordy, right? Because the audit proof goal, it has to be measurable and it has to have all of the elements. And if I read that every time, sometimes it gets a little long for me because it says by the date, the student will, in this scenario, this is the skill we're working on, and this is the percentage. So what I did here is this is the assessments, but I just linked all of the activities to the assessment. So you are assessing if the student can identify an audiogram and knows that it shows what you can hear. So you want to know if they can do that. If they can't do that, then you can click right here, and here are your lesson plans to be able to do that. So, but when it comes to our upcoming holidays, here is one of the goals that this absolutely applies to. They can identify 4 difficult listening situations, and they know at least 2 strategies that would help them access their environments. So this ties in exactly with those lesson plans that we were talking about, and you can absolutely use them for that activity. This is early beginning skills. And the section is early beginning understanding your hearing loss. And then we also have the communication repair section. So here we go. Student asks for either help or clarification when they don't understand directions. So this goes really nicely into that lesson plan. And so you can really see where these go. Now, something I want to point out about the self-advocacy checklist here. So all of these lesson plans, it basically goes until 5th grade. So the self-advocacy IEP goals go until about the 5th grade. But we know that self-advocacy is not mastered at 5th grade. It keeps going. But what happens for the purpose of the goal bank is it moves into the transition skills, because at that point it truly is a transition skill. And it is something that the student has to be able to do to be able to successfully advocate for themselves as they move up to the next set of things. Now this one, I've got the skills checklist, and the lessons and activities are actually 2 separate documents. I'm kind of getting a read on what people like better. But you can kind of see what we've got here. So let me just make this a little bit bigger. So I want to go to not amplification management, environmental awareness. I'm actually, for this one, I'm going to scroll, and this is another thing that you can do is you can see where the lesson plan is located. And oh, here we go. They demonstrate active listening techniques and communication repair strategies. So this is the skill that you're working on, and this is the lesson plan. But just so you can see what this looks like in terms of wanting to write it as an IEP goal, what this looks like, how this works for you is you will want to, let's do our skills checklist. Okay, you're going to want your own copy because this is going to be an assessment. So you'll make your own copy, and you will want to, it's a Google Doc. So then you're going to name it. I'm going to name this TS because that means test student. And you'll see we've got little checkboxes here for the assessment. So this is what they're working on. Section 1, here's skill 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if they've got all of them, you mark that they've got 4. And then you keep moving down. And these are the skills that you are checking. So let's pretend that they are, and then you do all the sections, and then from here, you're going to score how many points they have in this section and what percentage they have. And then you'll get a sense of, this is the beginning, or this is total intermediate transition skills. And you get that number. So now you can go, if they have 75% or more, you move up to the next level. But if they are less than 75%, then you can go right to the goals. So here's the goals. And transition is the biggest one. I've had a couple people panic because it's a big bank of goals because it's got all the skills. It's got amplification management. It's got communication repair. It's got self-advocacy. It's got all of the things. Basically, we're looking at about 5 skills a year starting in 6th grade. So from 6th to 12th grade, we've got about 6 years. This is basically 6 years of curriculum here. So if we are working within the intermediate area, here's your goal. You just copy and paste it. Within the classroom environments, they're going to advance from an intermediate level of transition skills to an advanced level by completing, and you choose the number. If they've already started with 7, you can choose how many is the next number. We've got 22 as our top. From the intermediate level, transition skills goal bank from the online itinerant with 80% accuracy. And then if you need different objectives, then here are your objectives. You can actually copy and paste them. And this objective is from understanding the impact of hearing loss. This is the overall objective, but then you've got all the mini activities that are inside of it. Here's the overall objective of amplification management. So you can choose what you want to do, but you just copy and paste it in, and then you add it for your own student. So that's what that looks like. And that's how we take these IEP goals and you build it right into what you're working on right now with your students. Okay. So that's what I am working on right now as I'm getting ready to walk into the holidays. I would love to answer any questions that you have about what you're seeing, what you're wondering, what you wish you could see. Just an opportunity to chat right now. All right, Jennifer had put in the chat that she's been using the IEP goals and the lesson plans. They've started from the beginning of the goals because our kids have not had any of these specific training prior to us coming on board. And our kids love learning about their audiograms, their hearing loss, as well as the other goals that we've provided. Great. I'm so excited to hear that. I have noticed that kids really do love to learn about their audiogram. And early in my career, I kind of kind of tiptoed around some of that stuff. I thought, oh, these are big vocabulary words. I didn't really know how important it was that they knew how the ear worked and all of that stuff. I thought, I don't know. But then I started teaching it and the students love it. And now I do at the end of the year, every year for the end of the year, I do an activity where it's the edible ear. It's in the toolbox there. And we get together either virtually or live and I pass out the snacks and all the kids create an edible ear and then they have to talk about their own ear and their own hearing loss and where it takes place in the ear and they practice saying that and then they get to eat their snacks and we have a little party. They eat the ear. So and that's kind of our end of the year activity. They just love that. They just love that. Let me see in the chat. Okay. If we could have transition goals for our 12 plus kiddos and auditory processing. So auditory processing goals, we will be the next set of goals that's coming. We will have language. So language is going to be both listening and spoken language and sign language. So we'll be having some language goal banks, and we will also be having using a sign language interpreter goal bank. The auditory processing kind of will go along with the following directions section, but there's a lot to auditory processing. There will be some auditory listening stuff inside of there that might be a component of that will be really helpful. That all will be coming out in the spring. And you said, Jennifer, you said for our 12 plus kiddos, do you mean deaf plus additional disabilities? Is that what you mean by that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Greta primarily works with the 12. Right now we only have one 12 plus, but and so yeah, having good goals for her as she transitions out into like learning how to take care of herself at home and going out into the workforce, and so trying to figure out how to navigate her and her needs in a productive way. I mean, you know, is right now pretty much what is more as a parent. That's really not the role that we need to be having that child. And then she also has an interpreter, but just trying to, I don't know, just help. I don't know exactly what we need, but we need something for
Sure.
her.
Sure.
I know that's
It
not helpful. I'm sorry.
It sounds like some of those language goals are going to be helpful for her, right? Just a lot of that basic kind of language. Well, let me clarify also. When it comes to the goal bank are goals that are specific and unique to hearing loss. So sometimes when we're looking at students, we're talking about one thing that you will not see in the goal bank, in the transition goal bank, is that they can manage themselves financially, that they know how to write checks or do banking or anything like that. That is
Right,
not there because it's not specific towards hearing loss. You know, it's for
right,
any.
right.
So some of those life skills stuff would not be in the goal banks, but they are life skills that you
Right.
would be able to hopefully find elsewhere. But the
Mhm.
language components and that type of stuff, I think and actually, I show you already the Kendall language proficiency scale? Because there might be some
I don't
great.
remember.
Let me just show
Okay.
that to you right now because I think you
Okay.
might see some goals essentially or some skills that would be kind
Okay.
of give you a compass, give you some direction.
Yeah, because that would be good to have something that's specific to the service that we need for that time. Things that really don't pertain to this deaf education. She is like her, you know, primary teacher that she has and paras and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Sure. So just to give you a little bit, you're breaking up quite a bit. So I think I'm getting about 50% of what you're saying, but I think I'm getting basically the key points here. So inside this toolbox, when you go into the assessments and forms, there's a couple that I think might be really helpful for you. First of all, one is the Kendall Proficiency Scale. And this one is meant it was created for students that sign, but it's not it's really not exclusive for kids that can sign. What it is it's building what we call conversational language. And do these children, do the students that you're working with have the skills to be able to have an advanced conversation with somebody? But you'll notice it starts at level 0. Okay, so it goes from 0 to 12 months. So a lot of nonverbal, it starts with the nonverbal. Does the child determine what another person is talking about by looking in the same direction as the other person? So do they track? Do they look where the other person is looking? Do they communicate about their own comfort, pleasure, and distress? So this is very, very, very basic communication skills. So, so this is just all the nonverbal stuff. But then this goes all the way up to age 14, what we want a child to be able to do. So this is for students who are significantly involved. Maybe they are still nonverbal. This really can give you some points in terms of those nonverbal skills and moving them out of the nonverbal skills. So and this again, this is just where you start and it goes all the way up to age 14. Now, some of these things, see it, does the child link what she says to what others say in any way? So they might comment on the same topic as what somebody else is talking about. I was working on this with a student today. Like we're actually working on conversation and turn taking. And I would say, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? And they say, I don't know. And then the conversation would stop. And I said, well, you have to carry on the conversation. You need to ask me something. It can be about Thanksgiving or it can be about what people do at Thanksgiving, but it needs to somehow be related. And this was actually a lesson, a really involved lesson that I was working on. So that might be helpful for you, Jennifer, but here's the other one that I think might be helpful. And this one is a newer tool that's been put in here. And this is called the McGinnis Pragmatic Skills Checklist. And this is published by the John Tracy Center. So it was created specifically for kids with hearing loss. And it starts out really young, that they can maintain eye contact, that they can express, their expression can match the emotion. It goes through these, but let me just fast forward a little bit to where we're going. They can make choices, they can call for attention, I'm gonna keep going forward. They can uh they could basically play games, can kind of like be silly. So this example is switches desserts with a playmate when he's not looking. I didn't do it, he did. So some of these playful conversations and skills. So are those things that might be helpful for you with these students that you're thinking of?
It might. Greta, do you think it would be helpful? Yeah.
Yep, she's
Okay.
signing yes. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
she works with this child more than I ever have, so
Great.
she
Good.
knows her better, um,
Wonderful. Yep.
and is a better gauge. But it's like what they're having her do with her is more what a para would be doing or the interpreter, and that's really, I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
not the role we want to have. So
Right. So
I'm
check out
trying to
those
get
two.
away from that.
Yeah, we try to get away from that. So
Okay,
check out those two things. And in terms of the IEP goals, we'll have banks that will be coming that will kind of embed some of this stuff, but not till spring. But this will give you at least some ideas on what kind of goals you can write and then some activities that you can do with it. So
perfect. Thank you.
yeah. All right. Well, we are about at time. Let me go ahead and I'm going to thank everybody for coming. Let me stop my recording right here.